By the end of this video, you will learn how to create this interaction you see here by getting in range of our object and pressing interaction key. And everything's going to be done using your controller, your pawn, and a component. So basically we're going to attach a component to your character. We're going to create a very simple code, and then using your input as an execution, we're going to be able to interact with the actor. And we're even going to create a child class where you're going to be able to create your own custom logic. In this case, just a string saying inside the function, but we're going to create all this in Blueprint. And this will give you a lot of insight about how to create, interact on actors, and make this modular. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the video. The first thing we're going to do here is that we're going to create a brand new project for Unreal Engine, a third person, and ideally an empty tutorial where it doesn't have any logic. It's just the normal walking character. And I'm going to go back here to new projects, and I'm going to select third person. Then this one you can leave a default, make sure it's Blueprint there. I'm going to call this, let's say, project interaction, just so I know what it is. Make sure you select where you want to save. I'm going to hit create, and once the engine completes, I will resume the video. And the first thing you want to do here is, this is a preference that I always like to do, is that everything that I want to create or start to work on a brand new project, I always like to create a new folder, and I put underscore main, right? Just so in this way, this folder is always the first one, all right? This is just a personal preference. Then the next thing I would like to do here is just, I'm gonna go back into the world settings, and when I press play, I have a default character, right? And we can use this one. The only thing I like to do is just I like to create my own character, just especially if you're new to the engine. Sometimes you may do some mistakes, you may end up deleting things that you shouldn't. So I like to protect myself in case I have to use the original character and I have to create a new project, or my Ctrl Z doesn't work. So what I like to do here is I'm going to go back here to this game mode override, okay? And I'm just going to hold this one, and I'm going to press Ctrl D, or you can just right click and there's a duplicate option here, all right? Now the first thing, I'm going to call this third person custom, all right? And I'm going to drag and drop this into my main folder. Just going to move that. I'm going to do the same for the controller, and I'm going to put custom here. And the most important thing here is our pawn, custom, all right? And I'm going to move right here to my main folder. Now I'm going to go back to my main folder, okay? And by the way, if this is not showing up, let's say you did this, so all you do is just you go back to your window and you open up your content browser, and then you should have this right here, okay? You can also, for example, if it helps, you can also open up two content browsers, and you can go on this folder and you just drag and drop things from one browser to the other. It makes it easy as well. Sometimes when you're working with two complicated things, it helps. Now, inside the main folder, what I like to do here, just to make things simple, I like to create a new folder called player, and then I move all the stuff inside the folder player. And then the last thing we're going to do here is that we're going to open up our Blueprint, this one here, which is our game mode. And then on the game mode, basically, it's just a set of instructions to the scene saying, this is the game mode, this is my pawn, and this is my player. So it's very simple to use. So basically in here, we need to assign the custom player we created on the player controller class. You can do the drop down, or I like to do like this. I click on the controller, on the pawn here, sorry, on the Blueprint. And then I just go here and I assign it. And then you can tell that using the right one by checking the custom here, because we added the custom prefix. And now we're going to do the same here for the pawn. So we're going to go back here to the pawn, and I'm going to assign it, compile and save. And now you need to tell the world that you want to use this new game mode. And all you do is that you go to the world settings and you assign it here. By the way, if you do not have the world settings, like I don't have it here, always go to this window and you can search for world settings, click, and then it's going to open up again. And now on the game mode, you can just select the one you created, custom. And one more step, this is very silly, but I like to do all the time, is just that when I create here a character, I like to use a cube just to make sure I am playing with the right character. So if I press play, I should have a cube. And yeah, that's how you know you are playing with the right character. Alright, so now that we have our character and our scene set up, the next thing I like to do here is that we're going to start to set up our component. Right, so the first thing I like to do when I'm using components, I like to take the approach of folders. They're modular, right? So I create usually a folder called modular. And then inside this folder modular, I like to add my feature. In this case, I'm going to create a new folder called interaction, all right? And in this way, I know that, okay, I have a modularity in my system, and inside this folder interaction, it's everything related to the interaction, okay? So it's very simple. Now, the next thing that we're gonna use here is that we're gonna create actually the actor, or in this case, the blueprint component that will be attached to our player. So you're gonna do this by right-click, and you're gonna go to blueprint class, and you're gonna create a actor component. And as the description say, actor component is a reusable component. So we can reuse this function to our AI. We can even do, let's say that we have an actor that requires interaction without being a controller. You can also use this. So we're going to click on this. And this one, we're going to call this BPC, which stands for Blueprint Component. It's just an easy prefix. And this is going to be called interaction. And there we go. Now we have the components here. Now the next thing that I want to do here is that I want to do an event when I am interacting and an event when I'm not interacting. So I need to create this kind of event in here. But the thing is that right now, we don't even know how this is going to work properly. So we need to focus first on the blueprint, and that's what we're going to be doing next. So now that we have here our blueprint actor components that we created, I'm just going to close this one for now. And inside the modular, the interaction folder, I'm going to create another folder called blueprint. Blueprint. And I'm going to add our first interaction actor. All right. So I'm going to go inside the folder. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go here to blueprint class, and I'm going to create an actor. And I'm going to call this BP base interaction actor, right? Now I'm going to open up, and here's going to be our interaction actor that is going to be interactable through our map. Usually, you always add like some kind of a mesh, but this is how I like to set up. So I'm going to add here a cube. In this case, it's a basic shape and it has a static mesh. I'm going to assign this. I'm just going to drag and drop to the default scene root, just to make sure that our cube is the default. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to press play. Let's see what happened. So now we have a cube. Right, so now we need to basically create some kind of interaction between the cube and the player and the component. Usually, what we can do is just that you can cast it, and then you get the player, and then you do things on the player. But we have a component layer, which may sound like we do things a little bit more complicated, but it's going to be very easy. So the first thing we're going to do here is that we need to add some kind of a trigger, how we can interact with the player. And on this case, we're going to add here a sphere. And I like to use spheres collisions because usually it's just a preference, but I think for interactions, they are much better than like a box, because a box you may have like a blind corner or something. I'm just going to increase the size here for like 300. And now if you see on the scene, like as you increase, you can actually see where it is increasing or not. Now, a very nice tip that I like to use when I'm debugging or creating a feature for a game that I'm not sure what's going to happen yet, is that I always go to triggers and I do hidden in game. I always untick this. Just make sure that when you building your game, you tick this again. Otherwise, it will be like this. As you can see, if you press play, I am able to see the trigger. So make sure you don't want this once you release your game. So now that I can see the trigger, we need to add a couple of events on the cube that can actually send that data or that information to our player, in this case, our player component. And the way you do this, it's very simple, but you use begin overlap. And we also going to click on the sphere and we're going to do a end overlap. So when you enter and when you get out, all right? So the first thing here then we need to do, I'm just going to delete those methods, I don't need it. I am going to do a print. I'm going to plug this value right there. And the other actor, I'm going to put it here. I'm just going to connect to the print string. I'm going to copy and paste that selection. And I'm going to do also the same on here when we exit. And if everything goes well, we can compile and save. And now when I press play, I can see when I get out. You see? So blue means I am entering and yellow means I'm getting out. And this means that our interaction is ready for the next step. Nice. So now we have all the connections ready. Let's create the component properly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close all the stuff for now. I don't need it. I am going to go and head back to my components and I need to find my player. So I'm going to go here, main, modular, sorry, not modular, player. And I'm going to open up the BP player, the custom one. Now that I have the player open, I need to bring this component into my player. And the way you do this is that you go to add and we're going to search for BPC interaction. And I'm going to click on it. Now, nothing's going to happen yet because we don't have the logic to do this yet, but we can actually start to do a more, let's say, now we can actually implement this on the component itself. So now that I know the actor that I'm working, the type of actor, the type of blueprint, what I can do, I can go back to the component itself. I'm going to create a new variable. And this variable, actually, I don't need this one right now. Let me just delete this. What I'm going to do is something simple. I'm going to create the event first. I'm going to create here a custom event. And I am going to call this interact with interaction actor, or actually interact with actor, right? It's probably a better name. And I'm going to duplicate this and by holding Control D, and I'm just going to call interaction with actor. I'm just going to copy that name, exit, right? And I copy just by pressing F2. You can just highlight and press F2 and then you copy the name. So one is when we get inside the range, one is when we are outside the range. Also helps as well, they can add the descriptions in here just to make sure you understand what's going on here. Now, the next thing we need to do is that we need to know the type of the actor we're trying to interact. On this case, if I go back here to modular interaction blueprint, it's always the BP base interaction actor. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to basically create a new variable called interaction actor. And the type is going to be this one, BP base interaction actor. Make sure it's an object reference. We can make it public, but in this case, it only works internally. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And then I'm going to go back here. I'm going to drag and drop here. Also, if you drag and drop on the arrow, it makes it so you can set up properly. You can set up. So we can do it like this, or we can do on the arrow. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to set the variable here. I'm going to drag and drop the pin right there. And I'm going to do the same for here. But on the interact with actor exit, I'm going to do something different. I'm just going to set to nothing because I'm exiting the range, right? And we can just go here and we can highlight all the nodes and you can press C, right? And you can add a comment. So when the actor enters the range, and we can also say when the actor exits the range. And one thing I like to do here is that I like to, for positive actions like entering green, and for a negative action, I like to put it like a red color. Now we actually need to make sure this is actually working, because right now, if you press play, it's not going to work, right? So it's not going to do anything. One thing as well that I like to do is that I like to, when I press play, to see the screen full size. So I am just going to change this to a new window right here. So I have the full screen when I'm playing. So you just go here and you press that. Nice. So now that we have this interaction, let's open up here our component, and I'm gonna edit here the blueprint. And the thing that I need to do now is that I need to make sure that our character, in this case, the BP third person character custom, has the component so we can actually interact with it. And the way you do this is very simple. You just basically get actor component, right? Or get component by class, get component, get parent component, get component by class. And now what we can do is that we can search for the BPC here, and I can try to do a print. And let's see what is going to happen. If we press play, look at that, BPC interaction. So I can do the same here when I get out, right? So I can do the same, and that's gonna work just as fine. Just pretty good. Right, so now we need to access the method, and we need to say, look, I need to make sure that I am passing the reference of the actor that's touching this here, like, or the component to know who is the actor that has that. So on this case, now what we need to do is that we need to call those methods on enter and on exit. So the way you do this, very simple. You go here and you do interaction with actor, right? And you also do the same. So interact with actor exit, right? And basically, that's everything you need to know right here. Now, there is a problem here, and this is something that I always like to do, is basically, when you have those kind of actors that are interacting with the characters, make sure that you always check if it's valid or not. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna do is valid, right? And we're gonna edit right here. And we're also gonna do the same from there. So we're gonna make sure it's valid. And then if it's valid, we can actually do the action or not. So now if I go here and I can actually, I'm just gonna do a test here. So I'm gonna do an event tick, and I'm gonna do a print. Nope, not this one, print. And I'm just gonna put this thing in red. And now I just wanna get our actor and I wanna get the name, right? So right now, probably nothing's gonna print, but as soon as I step in, oh yeah, it's not printing. So let's have a look what is going on here. So if I go back to the actor, oh yeah, it's because the interaction actor, sorry, we need to do self. Forgot about that. And now look at that. You see, everything, it's working. So it means that as long as you are in the range, you are interacting with the actor. And if you get out of the range, then you're not interacting with the actor. And that's basically how you do this. And now in the next step, what we're going to do is that we're going to do, so you create a key and you can destroy the actor by pressing a certain key. Nice. Now we have all this part done. We need to make sure that we can interact with this actor somehow, and we can do something nice with it. Now, what I like to do here is that I can do a couple of things, but personally, what I like to do here is that it's just use the interaction that we have on the player, because the components are reusable, so it can be used in many times. So we just need to expose the method, and that's all we need to do. So in the BPC interaction, all we have to do here, it's going to delete that. I'm going to create here a custom event, and I'm going to call interaction action, right? Action. Now, we also need to get our component here, in this case, our actor. We need to make sure it is valid, okay? Now we're going to add all those values right here. And then we need to do the next step, but we don't have this yet. So for now, I'm just going to do a print. And then after we implemented the interaction, make it work. Let's just add this right now. Now, so when you interact with something, we're going to be using the inputs and the existing inputs that the engine already has for us. So I'm going to go here to the content, and if I search on the third person blueprints, I think is it here? Inputs, right? There's this input folder. I'm going to open up, and I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a new input action. So I'm going to go back to inputs. Where is it? Inputs. So you're going to go to here, and we're going to create IA interaction. Perfect. Now you don't need to open up this right now. If you open up, you just have a couple of like what kind of trigger when it's paused and those values. The default value is good as is for us. Now the next thing we have to do is that we need to tell, hey engine, I need you to use this input now. The way you do this is by using something called IMC. In this case, IMC default. And now if I go here, I can go back to the default key mappings, and I'm gonna add a new one, and I'm gonna search for this one, IA interactions. And then on here, we can bind a key. So in this case, you can select a key value, or you can select from the drop down. I like to just click on this and press the next key, E on this case. And that's it. That's how you add the interaction. Now we have to use this. Now, to make sure this is being used properly, what I like to do here is that if you press delete on the object, it tells more or less the references what it is. On this case, I can see on the player custom controller here, I can see that's being used, which means that we are actually loading this in memory, which is all we want. So we're going to go head back to our player on this case here. And then all I can do is that I can search for this IA-interaction, and you're going to select the first one. And all we're going to do here, okay, so we're going to expand this stuff. And here we have on started, ongoing, on completed. What I'm going to actually do is just going to use on started. So if I do a print here, for example, and I press play and E, you see I have a bunch of hello. Now we just need to tell the components, hey, let's just trigger the component. And the way you do this, if you remember, is that we created an interaction action in the component here. So all you have to do, drag and drop the components and call that interaction action. And you just plug it here. And now, if I just press play, look what happened. Nothing for now because there's no actor. If I step in, look at that, make it work. And if I get out of it, nothing happened. Now, this concludes us this part. I'm just going to comment this, and we're going to say basically when the player interact with the actor. And I recommend you guys using the comments. It's really handy. Now, what we have to make sure now is that we can actually do something with the actor itself. Otherwise, this is no use for us, right? So what we have to do is that we're going to go back to our main. We're going to go back here to modular interaction and the blueprint. And now let's create here an event inside this that can be triggered, and it will run a function that can be overridden in the future. How you do this? Very simple. We're going to create here a custom event call. We can call this on actor interaction, right? And now what we can do, I'm going to create here a function called, I'm going to just do a name here, fn, just for function. And I'm going to call this on actor interaction, right? And then for now, I am just going to do a print saying inside the function, all right? And now we just go here, we call the function, and on the on actor interaction, right? We can go back to our player. Sorry, our player, no, our interaction action. And now we have the main actor interactor here, right? So if it's valid, we're gonna run this on actor interaction. And you can plug this here, right? And I'm gonna comment this saying like on actor interaction sends the event to trigger actions. And now look at this. If I go and I press, I am running inside the function, the code. And now you can do whatever you want. Like you can, in essence, for example, imagine that this is a very large cube, right? Something like that, right? Imagine this is a door that's blocking the player and I have the key and I can pass it through. Now what you can do is that you can go back to this interaction actor and I can open up here I can delete, and I can do like destroy, and I can just plug this one right here. And now look what happened. If I go inside and I press E, it destroys the actor. But however, this way is a little bit destructive. So another tip that I like to do here as well, just so we can finish this video and you can make some cool stuff, is that I like to create a child class, okay? And I'm just gonna call this child base interaction door, all right? Now I'm gonna close the parent. I'm gonna delete this one from the world. I'm gonna bring the base door right here. So right now, if I go back to the door, because I delete the function, nothing is happening, okay? But what I can do, inside the base door, I can open up, I can go back here, and I can override a function. On this case, if I search for fn, I can click on this one, and on this case, I don't wanna run anything on the parent, so I don't wanna run anything, in this case is the print, so I can delete that, and I can just do destroy, right? Destroy. Can't type destroy today. And now we add it right here. Press play. Look at what happened. It destroys the actor. So that way it allows you to create so many possibilities by creating, you know, child of a class, and you can make this reusable. Now, the main point why I wanted to do this with a blueprint component, it's because right now you can kind of just add this module to any of your characters, even outside the scope of this project, and then it works everything the same way, and you're already consistent. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you next time.